Hello, this video is for people who are familiar with GenerateBlocks and GeneratePress, but are curious about what changed in the flexbox update of GenerateBlocks, that is from version 1.6 to version 1.7. I'll be using the new flexbox settings to make small adjustments to a GeneratePress site library website. I'm using Summer Camp in this video, but you'll find similar settings in other sites. First, I want to show you how to drill up to find the parent container with the flex settings so that you can make some of these changes. Now, one of the sections I want to change is on the About page of Summer Camp. So I'm on the About page of Summer Camp, I scroll down, and I want to move this image to the right hand side. So I'm going to edit the page. Now what I've got here is the container at this side has got an image inside it, and the container at this side has got these headlines. And what I want to do, I just want to swap the containers around. So I want this container to move to that side. So I drill back up to the wrapper container, and here it says display flex. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a container that is display flex. And now what I can do, we've got row and we've got reverse. So if I click reverse, it'll reverse the rows. Now there is something called column gap here, but the column gap is in the middle. So when I reverse the row, the column gap will still be the same. There'll still be 80 pixels column gap. Now the next thing I want to do is, I'm still in Summer Camp theme, and I want to move these icons to the right hand side. Now this is actually made from a collection of containers. So we've got a wrapper container with an inner container there and another container here, and this wrapper container is set to flex row. So these two are actually two containers in a row, and because they're in a row they just sit side by side. But I want to swap them round, so all I need to do, yet again, select that, and I can use row reverse. What I'm going to do, I'm going to change all three of them. So I choose, select them all, row reverse, and the icons move to the other side. What I want to do now, I want to change these headlines. These are headlines, and I want to edit those. So I'm going to edit the page, scroll down, I'm going to select one of the headlines, and then open list view, and we've got a list of headlines. So I'm going to select them all, I just used shift select to select them. I now want to reverse them, and I want to put some gap between the icon and the text. So I scroll down, and I need the icon setting, and in icon setting I want to set the padding left to 1, and that adds a bit of space between them. Now this headline is not set to flex. When you add an icon to a headline, WordPress or GenerateBlocks automatically converts the headline to flex. See, that's display flex. But this headline doesn't have an icon, so it's display default. But I can still align it with the ordinary alignment settings. Now the next thing I want to change is this row of icons here. Now these are actually buttons. They're individual buttons inside a button container. And if I select the button container, because if you look at that blue line, that shows you the size of available space. So what I can do now, I can justify content and add space between or space around, or I can center the icons or left or right align them. I want space between. The important point is that I select the button container before I use the flex settings. If you look at an individual button, it's set to inline flex. Now there are things you can do with inline flex, but in this video we're using the flex settings, so it's not inline flex, it's just flex, and they're the settings we need to space these buttons out. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to align this button, but this, if you look here, it's a single button with no button wrapper, and to align a single button, it's much easier if you just click this add button container, and that gives you the ability to align the button. So now put the button inside a button container, and I'm selecting the button container, and I can align the button center, left or right. I'll move it back to the center. But the important point is, if you've got a single button with no button container and you want to align that button, the easiest way is just to add a button container. Now, another important thing about buttons is they are no wrap by default. So if we've got a single button and we can duplicate the button, we'll have to duplicate it a few times because we've got a big box here. See, these buttons are not wrapping. So what we want to do, we need to select the button container, choose wrap, and now the buttons will wrap to another line. I'm going to add some column gap just to make a bit of space between the buttons. So to make space between things, between flex items, you add column gap. Add a bit more actually. Makes a bit more space. We'll just have a really quick recap of what we've done. I started out by drilling up to try and find the flexbox container. So if you look in this section here, we're looking for flex. It's this display flex. So as I drill up, that's not display flex. That's not display flex. But this one is, and that one gives us a row that we can reverse. So there's the flexbox settings. I then wanted to reverse these big icons. So there's 3 containers there. I selected all 3, and then again I used row reverse to move the icon to the other side. Next, I wanted to align these icons. So I'll select one of the icons, and in list view, I go up to the button container, and when the button container is selected, I can use the justify content buttons to align the items. Next, I wanted to add several buttons, and we've got one button here that doesn't have a button wrapper, it's just a single button. So first of all, I click the button that says add to button container. Next, if I select the button, I can click this plus icon with the button, the individual button selected, select the plus icon to make more buttons. Now these buttons are not wrapping, so I want to select the button container, turn on wrapping. Now with the button container still selected, I want to add some column gap. And that adds bit of space between the buttons. Now I'm going to show you one more thing, so I'll delete these buttons. There's now a different way to add the icon to a headline and to add an icon to a button. In buttons you can still use the icon picker here, and you can align that icon using this drop down, left or right. Now with headlines, adding an icon has changed. I'll just shorten this a bit so it makes it a bit easier to see what's going on. And now if I select the headline, I can still add an icon. So I scroll down to icons, but the way that you align the icon has changed. See, down here there's no icon alignment. So what we need to do, scroll up to the top and use the reverse, and we can align it center. We'll need to add some padding there. So I want some padding left, and we're in the icon settings. We add padding left. It adds a little bit of padding to the icon. So you align the icons and add the icons differently in headlines and in buttons. There's a difference. You did them the same way before. Well, that's it for this video. It's been quite a long video, but I hope you've been able to follow along. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.